What does gutsy mean to you?
Uh, Gutsy is following that warrior all the way through, nonstop.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. You have two dominant voices in your head. One that tells you that you can't, feeds into fear, and questions every single move that you're about to make. And then there's one that reminds you of your power and your abilities. While they both serve a purpose, believe it or not, one tends to be much louder than the other, and you know exactly which one that is. Embracing your warrior mindset, which is your inner cheerleader, your knowing, your belief, your yes, I can do this, means pausing long enough to be able to hear it and actively choosing to question the doubt instead of becoming it. Today's guest is Chitra Rochlani, wellness coach, speaker, and author of The Warrior Mindset. Chitra is a certified personal trainer, corrective exercise specialist, and nutritional coach. But what really sets her apart is how she blends mindset, intuition, and healing into everything she does. She's also a medium and intuitive healer, helping her clients get past quick fixes and dig deep to the root causes that trigger their behaviors. Through her work, she breaks down big topics like mindset, manifestation, and intuition into simple, practical steps that anyone can follow. And listen, I got to tell you, before we dig into this, one of the most important parts of doing this inner work is having the right people around you. I mean, can you do this on your own? Absolutely. But is it easier when you're in a group of women that hear you, support you, that you can turn to with questions, to get feedback, to have some accountability and some timelines? Absolutely, it gets to be easier. Inside the Gutsy Collective, women are rebuilding their self-trust. They are shifting hesitation into momentum, and they're finally making the gutsy moves towards the things that they truly want. It's not that you can't do it alone. It's that you don't have to anymore. If you are so done with this cycle and you are ready to do something different about it, then the Gutsy Collective is your next move. This is your season, my friend. It's time. You can go to lauraor.com and sign up today. All right, my friend, today we are shifting out of that low vibe mindset and instead embracing your warrior mindset instead so that you can start to move forward. Let's get into it. Chitra, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. We were just chit-chatting a little bit before recording about how our intuitive abilities have not always been at the forefront. And then at some point we both just decided, you know what, it needs to be. I truly believe that it's that kind of stuff that connects people like you and I together as well. So I'm just thrilled to have you.
I love it. I love it. I love when I see the energetic connection happen and then we get to meet in this world. It's beautiful.
It's super cool. So today we're talking a lot about decluttering your mind and trusting yourself and, embracing your inner warrior. And so I can't help but believe that you've been on a journey of your own with decluttering your mind. So talk to me a little bit about what you've been through and what led you to do this work.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has been quite a journey of self-awareness, self-acceptance, and, when life throws you challenges, your natural instinct is to, either build resentment or, hide from those problems or just blame other people. And I did all of that, right, for a while. All of the above, check, 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 until I realized that they weren't really working. Getting upset wasn't working, feeling resentful wasn't working. And so, and I kept hearing all the wisdom, so to speak, from psychiatrists, from, Oprah, from Tony Robbins, from you name it. And they were all like, it's all going to happen inside of you. The change has to start within you. And I was like, what does that mean? Because everyone else is causing all the problems. So they need to change, and they weren't changing and my situation wasn't getting better. And so as I'm listening to all these people say that the problem starts or starts within and ends within. And so I'm like, okay, let me dig a little deeper here. And as I started to peel those layers within myself, I started to understand that all of us in our mindset have two voices. The inner critic, I call her the evil inner witch, and the inner cheerleader, I call her the warrior. And there is a constant battle going on between the witch and the warrior, nonstop. And this happens to everyone, whether you're a child on the playground trying to decide which kid to pick on your team, or the president or prime minister of a country trying to decide whether to go to war or not. Everyone has those two voices in their head. And if we actually stop everything else and start to observe those two voices, that's when the magic happens, because then you're like, oh, interesting that the witch has been dominating my mind for so long. And like, she's not even like the one talking all the time. She has the megaphone, and the warrior's like whispering. And so, I used to be a chronic people pleaser. So obviously all the time I felt like I was being taken advantage of, or I was the one doing everything, and I was exhausted and depleted, and nobody did anything for me, because as a child I was taught give, give, give. Giving is great. So, and as a child brain, I understood that to mean giving is good, taking must be bad. Right. So that kind of was my journey of like, from being a chronic people pleaser, from being conflict averse, from being someone who could not speak their mind because they were always afraid of not being liked. And that's kind of my journey of undoing all of that. And then that's where I found the power of the mindset. And then I went on to dig deeper and deeper, but that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, super relatable, right? I mean, those two voices, they do battle one another, and you're so right that the witch, so to speak, is so loud.
Yeah.
I mean, like amplified boombox speakers, like we're at a huge concert. Whereas that warrior part, the self-love, the trust, the belief, gosh, if you don't really look for it or listen, it's gone just as quickly as it came. And you were talking about observing the two voices. Can you break down what that might look like or feel like? How do you start to observe these two? Because it sounds like that's kind of where we need to start.
Yeah. And that's the work that nobody wants to do, right? Even now,
We all want a quick fix. We want a
yeah.
hack. We want a 3-step this and then it's done. But that's just
Yeah.
not how it works.
3 keys to making your mindset work.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the tips that they tell us, right? When you're posting on social media, post things like that. But in my world, it's all about going deep, right? And I have this framework that I use. I call it the peel, feel, heal framework. And literally what that means is peeling the layers of your old conditioning, feeling the emotions that come up, and then doing something about those feelings so that you can then evolve and heal from that. So, for me, it started with when I started to understand that maybe it is something that I need to change within myself, right? And then paying attention to those feelings that were coming up. So if I was feeling resentful towards somebody because, they were just taking advantage of me all the time, I had to dig a little deeper and peel those layers and understand that, hey, wait a minute, they're not taking advantage of me. I'm enabling this behavior, right? Because my old conditioning was that, hey, you have to give till you have no more. And then when you're completely depleted, find a way to give some more. Right. That was the when the rag is completely squeezed and stuff, then you use it for something else and you still make something good out of it. And then I come to this country, like I was born in India, raised in Dubai. I came here about 25 years ago. And I come here and I see people like, and it's not a country thing. I think I just happened to be around people like that who were like so good at setting boundaries or saying no when they couldn't do something. And they were still being liked. And I'm like, what are they doing right? Like, how come they get to be liked and respected even though they say no? Because in my head, like I was only getting, I call them cookies. I was only getting cookies for being a giver in my house, right? But when I come here and I see other people getting cookies for doing other things, I'm like, oh, how come they're getting cookies? And they have candy, they have chocolate, they have other things. Like, I want those candies. And so I'm like asking them, how do you do it? And they're like, oh, here's a book on boundaries, read it. And I'm like, oh, there's a book on boundaries. Like, what? Mind blown. So that's kind of like where my quest started to understand the mind. And I became like obsessed with it. Like I read every self-help book, personal growth. I became a personal growth junkie. And I'm like, I need to know all of it, because if it is really inside of me, then I need to understand what's going on in there.
Yeah.
It really became, a process of, like, I call it my 3 A's in the book: awareness, acceptance, and action. So first you have to become aware of what are the thoughts you're having in your mind. What is going on? What am I thinking? And if I'm constantly thinking that, so and so took advantage of me, or so and so didn't listen to me, or I couldn't speak up because they were loud and bold and I'm meek and timid, then it's like, well, am I really that? Is that really who I am? Is that really who I want to be? And then accepting the part where, okay, this is my conditioning. This is not who I am, right? That acceptance piece is a huge one, especially for us women, right? Because we don't want to accept that. It's easier for us to just deny and deflect and be like, no, 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 I can keep going. Even today, like to this day, I call myself a recovering people pleaser now, but I still feel tempted to give in because it's so hardwired, that conditioning. But as I became aware of it, sometimes I would become aware after the fact, like, oh, darn it, I did it again, And now it's like, oh, I'm doing it right now. And then it got to, oh, I'm about to do it. And now it's like, I'm so far away from it that I'm like, no, I set boundaries well now. I'm actually getting really good at it. So that
Yeah.
first piece is awareness. Then you start accepting, okay, this is not how I was born. This is how I was conditioned. And so I can change it. But the problem is I have to change it. Right. And then taking the actions every day to start practicing saying no, start practicing saying, this is not for me, or I don't think I can help you with that. And as much as I would love to, my answer is no. And then repeating and repeating until it becomes second nature. That's kind of the process of, doing it over and over.
Yeah. And we do it hundreds, if not thousands of times. That's what people don't realize. It's like they want it just to be done. Well, first it didn't get that way overnight.
Nope.
And it's gonna take probably twice as long to undo it, if not longer. But it gets easier, right? But I think that so many people avoid doing this work because it's mirror work. You're looking at yourself. Yes, there are certain people or circumstances, things outside that's causing some of this stuff, right? But at the end of the day, what am I allowing? And that's it's a hard pill to swallow when you have to like really look at yourself and instead of just accepting it and dealing with it, learning to just pause with it and question it,
Yeah.
get curious with it. I think that's something I teach my clients all the time is like, this isn't about shaming yourself or making yourself bad or look at what I'm doing, but rather getting curious about it and saying, this is coming up now for a reason.
Yeah.
What can I get to know about myself? What do I need to know here? What am I feeling drawn to? What am I feeling? And that's the next part of one of your steps is to feel. I mean, I don't know if you experience this, but people love to run away from their feelings.
100%, 100%. And that's why when they work with people like us, it's like, okay, it's our job to keep bringing them back to it. Like, I know it's uncomfortable, but let's sit with that for a minute. Let's see how that feels. What's coming up for you as you're feeling that, right? And when we start to feel it is when we start to heal it, right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise we're just in denial.
Well, it's stored energy.
It is. And then you get, you attract all kinds of crap in your life because, oh, wait, why am I having suddenly health issues, relationship issues, or financial issues? Because there's a block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we feel it, it comes up and it comes out and we allow it to move on versus it just getting stored and rolling around in the same spot all the time. So I know that feeling is scary sometimes and super uncomfortable. There's never a convenient time to cry or have anger. But gosh, I promise you, if you're listening right now and you're like, I don't want to do that, I promise you there is so much healing on the other side of that. It clears your mind.
Yeah.
Gosh, it settles your nervous system after the heightenedness, of course, but I don't know, I just always find that it allows you to get so much more clear about things.
It's so cathartic. I mean, I'm always like struggling to cry even now because I feel like I'm always in that warrior mode, right? I'm strong. I take care of everyone around me. Like, I can't afford to cry and break down, otherwise everyone else will fall apart. And so, I realized a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, my mom was dealing with pancreatic cancer. She's in remission now. It actually might be coming back right now, unfortunately. But she, when I was dealing with all of that, she was in India, I was here, I couldn't get to her, and I was feeling all of these feelings. But I was so caught up in trying to make sure she's okay and my sister who's taking care of her is okay, that I didn't allow myself to feel anything, right? And then like once she did her surgery and her chemo and everything, she was better. And that's when my body started to show symptoms of that stress. And I would literally be in the gym and my hands would be shaking like that. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, why am I showing this now? Like, I've already, like, the stress is over. Now she's okay. But I think I almost gave myself permission to feel. And then it all came out because I was just like pushing it down, like, no, 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 we can't fall apart right now. And then when it was all good, okay, now you have permission to fall apart. And it literally just all like left my body physically. And it was, and then in that moment, I realized I'm like, I need to honor my feelings when they come up. I can't wait this long. It's not right. And so now every opportunity that I get to cry, I'm like, yes, I got to cry today because it's out of my system. I always say better out than in.
Yes. It shows up in the weirdest of ways, like you said, with your hand shaking or like um just weird on things that the doctor's like, oh, you're fine, but you're like, I'm not fine. And I don't know, the body. I mean, there's a reason there's a book, a very popular book called The Body Keeps the Score, because it does. It stores the things that we are not willing to face. And
100%.
Man, when you allow yourself to go there, and if you can't yet on your own with somebody trusted, you will do yourself you'll do not just your body, but your mind such a service.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an energetic cleanse. We need to release that.
You've mentioned the word warrior a few times. I know it's in the title of your book. It's one of the voices in our head. How do you define what a warrior is in this instance?
Yeah. In the simplest terms, it's your cheerleader. It's how you would talk to your best friend or your child, and you would nurture them and encourage them and empower them to do what they need to do. But it's also, the voice of your intuition. And it's in there, always accessible. Sometimes it whispers, and we really have to strain ourselves to hear it. But that warrior will remind you of your power every single day if you allow it.
What does your warrior sound like to you? Like, if there's a circumstance or a situation that you could think of, like when she's talking to you, what does she say? How do you know that she's present?
I know that she never makes me feel bad. She never puts me down. She is always, always patiently encouraging me and saying things like, you're ready for this, even though you don't think you are. It's not so much about you as it is about the people you're trying to help. And I think of when I think of visually the warrior, I feel like it's someone who is kind of like a mix between a Marine and a monk. It's almost like this, because, even if you're a warrior going into the army to fight, you still have to have this wherewithal of what's going on around you. And people don't just go to fight to wars, right? They're waiting a lot. They're preparing a lot. They're, observing a lot. And so very conscious of their environment, right? It's almost I think of the Karate Kid, right? That's a warrior to me because they're aware, even if a fly is to come by, I am so aware, right? My warrior is so aware of what is going on around. So it's very Zen. It's almost like a Zen warrior is what I picture. I don't picture a warrior going to war, because a lot of times people are like, warrior's harsh. I'm like, no, not to me. To me, warrior is very Zen and very alert and very observant.
Zen is a great word, because mine is very similar. When I'm in that space, it's not loud. It's not complicated. It's not questioning. It's often a very still space. And I think that that's sometimes why we might unintentionally run away from it, because we're not used to that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's still and clear. Nope, I gotta go make things complicated. Yeah. I gotta go back to the familiar chaos that I know so well. And my inner warrior voice is very similar in the sense that she's just like, you got this. What? Why are you even questioning this? It's already done. She's just, mine is very matter of fact, but that's, a reflection of my natural tone as well. So tapping into her can be a little bit difficult, right? Especially when our minds are busy and cluttered. And I know that you've got 7 beautiful ways to declutter your mind, which is the primary focus and why we've come here together today. Would you be willing to walk us through what those 7 things are?
Sure. Yeah, there's 7 different mindsets that I talk about. And I was just having this conversation in another group I was coaching this morning, and we were talking about how we're so terrified of being still. We're so terrified of being without any noise around us. And these women were like, when I walk, I also have a podcast or something playing. When I'm with the kids, when I'm working out, I have music playing. Like there's always sound around me. And so we're so terrified of being in that stillness, because when we're still is when we hear all of those voices, right, that are in there. And for me, really, it came down to 7 core mindset shifts that we all need to make. And those 7 are fear, worry, doubt, insecurity, victim mindset, and scarcity. So in the book, I have them as chapters: fearless, not fearful; victor, not victim; stressed, not blessed; blessed, not stressed. I always say it the other way. Abundance, not scarcity; warrior, not worrier. And so I have 7 of these mindset shifts, because I think that if we can overcome these basic 7 or the core 7, then we can really make our way into a higher level of energy. And when we're in a higher level of energy is when we're able to then attract amazing opportunities, people, and experiences in our life. Because otherwise we're caught in this low emotional kind of wavelength, and that doesn't serve us well. We're always struggling in that. So, it's just really, I use my 3 A's formula: awareness, acceptance, and action, to break through each fear in the book. And so I use examples and stories, and I have a worksheet at the end of every chapter so that people can work through it and identify, which of these 7 is taking over my mind all the time. Am I living in fear? Am I constantly living in worry? Am I feeling everything is being driven from insecurity? Because again, these are things that we don't want to face. We don't want to question. We don't want to challenge. But it's so important to acknowledge what is going on in there, because I always tell people, like my clients, when I work with them, I'm like, it's not your fault. It's not like you are insecure because you said, I'm a so-and-so person and I'm going to decide to be insecure. No, your conditioning made you who you are. Right. So if you're going to put a blame on anything, it's not even a blame, but if you want to put the blame on something, put it on your conditioning, because you didn't know better. You were a child and you were raised in this society, this environment, this culture of, insecurity or fear or worry or doubt, because this is how we're taught to exist in this ego world, so to speak, right? It's like, go to school, get good grades, compete with everyone around you, become the best at everything you do, get a good job, make sure that, you ace the interview better than everyone else, and constantly being taught to compete and compete and compete and rise up in the material world. But then we're not taught that we also have an emotional world. We also have a spiritual world, and we need to understand those feelings and those energies as well. So if we are going to really deal with the material world, first we got to deal with the material emotions and feelings. And so get rid of the fear, get rid of the worry, get rid of the doubt. I always say in the book, I think I've said, I have a friend, if she won $1 million, she'd be like, oh my God, it's so heavy, it's so heavy, it's so heavy. So there are people who will complain about everything. And then I have a friend who's, a husband's dealing with a major illness, her, daughter's dealing with some other issues, mother's dealing with something else, and yet she's always smiling, right? And the reason is because she's done that work in her mindset to overcome the basic, fear and worry energy that she would have lived in all along. So if we don't do that work, we're not going to break through that level. It's like first level to me. And that's why the first book had to be warrior mindset. The first book had to be about overcoming the basic 7 mindsets. And then you're in this area of abundance and fearlessness and warrior mode, and everything's like working out beautifully because you believe. You're a believer, not a doubter. And the more you feed those positive loops, the more you attract opportunities to believe in that more and more.
I want to read you a win from one of the members inside the Gutsy Collective. She shared, "Now I am able to move past the things that before would have halted me in my tracks." How freaking relatable is that? Like, there's something that you want to do, you get ideas, you maybe even start to take a little bit of action, and then your brain pops in and talks you out of that great shit before you even get started. Inside the Gutsy Collective, we stop breaking the promises we've made to ourselves for months or maybe even years. In this group, women have transitioned from toxic workplaces into careers that they feel aligned and fulfilled with. They've launched businesses, they've written books, they found clarity on their next bold move, they've got momentum, they have created self-trust again. This is the space where you stop talking yourself out of it and you start doing it instead. If you're ready to prove to yourself that you can do this once and for all, then join the Gutsy Collective. You can go to the link in the show notes, or you can find it at lauraora.com. Absolutely. I'd love to, is there one of these 7 that you find is more common than the others?
I think fear is the biggest one, right? Fear is the biggest one. It eats us alive. It literally, I think the quote I have in the book that starting in that chapter is fear paralyzes, action liberates. So yeah, we can go deeper into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. So let's see. I'm trying to think of an example. Yeah, I have a friend who is recently been worried about his job, right? That I might not have this job. This is the only source of income for my family, and I don't know how we're going to make it. And it's like his question always is, what's going to happen? How am I going to find a replacement for this job? What am I going to do if I don't have a job? Like, what else can I do? And while those are good questions, they're not addressing the underlying fear that he's feeling, right? Because underneath all of those questions, underneath all of that worry and doubt is fear. And so the fear is that I will lose my job and I will not be able to provide for my family. Now, one of the things that I say to him a lot is, okay, let's think about this fear and become aware of it first and acknowledge it, right? Because it's almost like, we can keep saying there's a monster under the bed, the monster under the bed, monster under the bed. But the minute we say, oh, I see you, monster, there's a power to it, right? Because the witch is like, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. What are you going to do? How are you going to manage? How are you going to survive? How is the family going to survive? And the warrior's like, it's not a problem. Why are you making it a problem until it's a problem? You haven't lost your job yet. You haven't gotten laid off yet. You're not out on the street. You have savings in the bank. Like, what is the problem? But we take fear and we go run with it to like extremes. And we make ourselves so crazy that we can't even hear the voice of reason anymore, right? I remember I was in the gym one time working out, and there was this 12-inch box, right? 12-inch box that everyone was jumping over as part of a circuit. Every time I saw the box, I was like, I can't jump on this. I literally, in my head, the fear was so huge that I thought it was like Mount freaking Everest. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, why am I so afraid of this box? Like, my logical mind was both terrified and confused because I'm like, it's a 12-inch box. But I had also seen some videos of people like hurting themselves badly. So there was a fear, right? And so one day I told the instructor, I said, I don't know when I'm ever going to be able to overcome this stupid box. And he looks at me, he goes, do it right now. You can do it. And I was like, no, it's okay. I forget I said anything. And then suddenly I hear the whole class like, go, go, go. You can do it. You can jump. You can jump. And suddenly the whole 8 people staring at me. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, why did I do this? And in that moment, out of sheer need to not be an embarrassment to myself and to the others, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I closed my eyes and I just jumped. And I thought I was going to fall flat on my face. It was going to be horrible. And I opened my eyes and I was on the box. And in that moment, do you want to know, Laura, what my first thought was? I looked at the 18-inch box and I said, you are freaking next.
Yes.
I'm coming for you. Because I felt so invincible in that moment, right? It wasn't a big deal, but in my head, it was huge. And when I overcome that, it was like, I can do anything. I can do anything today. Like, that was the day I should have gone and done the craziest stuff that I could have ever done. But that's the power of action, right? Fear will paralyze you over and over and over. Action will liberate every single time. Right? So with this friend too, I told him the same thing. I said, look at your bank account. Do you have money? Oh yeah, I can live. I'm like, how long can you survive on this without your job? Well, at least 2.5 to 3 years. I'm like, well, You don't think you could find another job in 2.5 to 3 years?
I thought you were going to say 2 or 3 months. 2 or 3 years, my
No,
friend. You're going to be all right.
right? But the fear eats you up and takes away the joy from the present moment. And I'm like, you're missing out today because you're worried about something that may or may not even happen in the future. And that awareness suddenly is like, oh, you're right. I'm living in this fear so much that I have forgotten to talk to my kids today or be there for my wife today. And it's like, whoa, light bulb.
So
And
how do you recommend catching that fear and changing it? Because I mean, you and I both know it gets very loud and very complicated very quickly. And then people freeze.
yeah,
They can't take action because the mind gets so loud. So how would you coach um your friend through that moment to get him back into, a warrior mindset?
yeah. I mean, the first thing I say is call BS. Call BS on that fear. Is it real? Is it really a danger today, right now, in this moment? Are you actually, has someone given you the pink slip? No. Okay, then why are we assuming it's a problem until it's a problem? I have a friend who always says, don't assume it's a problem until it's actually a problem. And so we're like, okay, well, it's not a problem today. So can we live today? Can we be here? What if you drop dead tomorrow? Are you going to sit here worrying and fearing about it, losing a job, or are you going to enjoy today? Right? The moment we're given, like, okay, you have 10 hours to live or 10 days to live, suddenly everybody wants to live. Why can't we live already? Right? And so call BS. That's the first step. Call BS on that fear. Ask it if it's real. If it's not real, then what is real? Replace that. Like, because we can't say don't feel fear, don't feel fear, don't feel fear, because then all we feel is fear.
Yeah, yes. It's like don't push the red button. Well, what do we
Yeah,
all want to do?
we all want to push the red button. But so call BS on it, replace it with what really exists, right? What really exists is that you have a job today. You have a family today that loves you. You have your kids here with you today. You have a wife that loves you. Like, okay, can we show some gratitude for that? Right? And then bringing in really just admitting to yourself how crazy it is that we can take ourselves that far. So it's almost like you have to hit the brakes first. Hit the brake, stop for a second, pause, and be like, okay, am I spiraling or am I like really feeling this? And if I'm spiraling, how can I come back and float first? And then once I float, then I can see, okay, there's more things that I can do. I can brush up my resume. I can talk to my network. I can reach out and learn some new skills. There are things to be done. There's action to be taken. And every action you then take gives you a sense of accomplishment that then feeds into the possibility, not the fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love to movement. If the mind still is just like pounding at you, if you're able, get up and move.
Shake it out. Agreed.
Move physically, shake your body, go for a walk, change your scenery, get into a different room, do something different for a moment. Like just interrupting that thought pattern
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. If you just really feel backed into a corner and you're not yet able to get to that place,
Yeah.
again, if you're able, move your body, you
That's
know, something
yeah.
as simple, even as sitting back in your chair and like shaking your arms out can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because that friend of mine will say often that he'll get up in the office and just start walking. He's like, I just need to shake it off. I just need to shake it off. And I'm like, that's your body telling you need to shake off that energy. And I always say there's three things you can do: art, nature, and movement. Those are the three ways usually people can get back to their flow or at least get back to center a little bit. And so movement is right there, right? Movement. I have a coloring book that I use, an adult coloring book, and I have these awesome paintbrush pens.
Ooh,
Oh my God, they're amazing. They make me feel like a legit artist, even though I'm
so satisfying.
not. So good. Like it really is so therapeutic. And it literally takes like 5 minutes of one page. And I'm like, I just get there, I put on some music. It shifts my energy and makes me kind of back in the moment and be like, okay, it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to chat about goes hand in hand with the fear piece, is trusting yourself, especially with women. Anytime I make content around trusting yourself, I can guarantee you it's one of the highest performing pieces of content that I can make. So, how do you recommend that we trust ourselves in those moments of fear or uncertainty or when the mind is getting loud? What do you like to do to get back into a place of self trust?
I think, when you do what you were saying with breaking the pattern, right? Or like I said, hit the brakes on that train of thoughts that is just literally ready to crash into whatever's coming its way. When you hit the brake and you get into something that centers you back, that's when you are able to listen to that inner voice, listen to that voice that you need to trust, and I call our intuition our biggest, most underutilized superpower, because it really is. We are so heavily trained to rely on logic and data and intellect, but we've forgotten that we have this internal GPS system, this internal voice and wisdom that is constantly here to guide us, right? And the farther away we are from this internal GPS system, the more lost, suffocated, frustrated, angry we feel, right? So it's not a one time, especially when you're in the middle of that fear, it's hard to come back to center, right? So I tell people, make a daily ritual, a daily practice of some sort of activity that gets you into flow. And then change it up every so often, because if you do the same thing every single day, your mind will learn to zone out of it. So change it up. Like sometimes I'll go stand in the grass barefoot and I'll be like, okay, I'm just feeling this grounding happening, right? And then I break that pattern of worry and fear and insecurity. And then I go into centering. And now I can hear that inner voice, right? Trusting it is the next step, I think, right? Because first you have to acknowledge it and hear it. If you're not used to hearing that voice, that means your mind is so cluttered that you can't even allow that voice to come in. So declutter that space when you listen to that witch and the warrior, and you tell that witch and put her in her place and say, no, I'm not going to give in to you. Do whatever the hell you wanted to her, because she doesn't belong there. She's just here to give you information. So we don't want to hate on her, but at the same time, we need to put her in her place. We need to take that megaphone away from her and give it to the warrior, and then experiment, right? Try it out, because I know for a fact that when you start listening to that inner warrior, you will start to see a change happen in your life. And as that change happens in your life, you will then kind of be more willing to follow that gut instinct and that inner voice more and more. And before you know it, it becomes second nature. And now I can't stop, or I can't do anything without checking in with my intuition now.
Yeah, same. It's just it's like part of my decision making. It's part of my daily routine. It's just like co-creating with myself, basically. And it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The more you listen to it, the more clear it gets. And man, it makes everything so much easier. Like you said, we're told to look at data and facts and science and all this, and everything has a time and place. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But this tool of hearing and trusting ourselves, I'm telling you, it's a magic key that unlocks the door that you keep beating your head up against.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You said it so well. It's priceless, really. I always say, like, we're so heavily obsessed with the IQ. We're just starting to understand the EQ, emotional quotient, where now we're hearing things like leaders should have emotional intelligence, they should have maturity, they should have empathy, they should have vulnerability, and all of that, right? And then if you imagine a triangle, we have the IQ, we have the EQ, and then we have the energy quotient on top. And we're not even talking about energy. And that's where all of the change gets driven from, right? We attract based on our energy. We feel based on our energy. And if our energy is high vibing, then we're going to attract with so much ease and manifest everything that we need, that we don't need to then have affirmations or writing down things 100 times or changing our passwords into 10,000K months or whatever. It just all starts to fall into place because you're energetically aligned with who you are.
Yes. Oh, it's like an energetic superhighway.
Exactly.
Where everyone is just safely going in the same direction in their own lane.
And there's no need to compete. There's no need for clutter. There's no need for chaos. It's all beautiful.
And we're not comparing ourselves to what everybody else is doing, because when you're in your own energetic alignment,
it doesn't matter.
You become a cheerleader for everybody else as much as you do yourself.
Absolutely. Because you're not caught up in those negative emotions, like fear, worry, doubt, insecurity. You're not feeding it. Your energy's not feeding off of that.
Amazing. Yeah. Chitra, I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find your book, and if they want to learn more about you and potentially work with you, what's the best place where we can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Oh my God. My book is called The Warrior Mindset, 7 Mindset Shifts to Unleash Your Inner Warrior. It's on Amazon. It is in a couple of bookstores, but Amazon is the best bet. And then my website is fitwarriorlife.com. And you can find all of my information there, from my coaching services to my energy readings to the book and workshops that I do along that, all of that good stuff.
Perfect. We will link all that in the show notes. So if you want to grab Chitra's book, make sure you scroll down and click on that. And I got to know, my friend, what does gutsy mean to you?
Gutsy is following that warrior all the way through, nonstop.
Chitra gave us so many great tips and tricks today. And I think one of the biggest ones that I'm walking away with is questioning the negative voice instead of dealing with it, instead of absorbing it, instead of making it true and real. I think that you can never hear this kind of information too much, because it reminds you how incredibly capable you are of shifting everything around you. If you've got a friend that's been struggling a little bit or questioning her abilities, send her this episode. Who knows? It just might be the thing that shows up in the right place in the right time. If we're not yet connected on social, let's fix that. You can find me on your favorite platform using @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.